Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
I'm Cooper Burke here for Combat Sports UK with Denis, the Menace Frimpong. Denis, how are you?
I'm not too bad, lad. Yeah, as good as you can be the Sunday of a fight week, water loading and all that, low on carbs, but happy still.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Did you stay up for the fights last night at all?
You know what? I didn't actually mean to. I didn't want to, and then I ended up like I said, I'll watch a few of the prelim fights. They end up being bangers, and I was like, do you know what? I'll stay up for the BMF fight at least. And then I ended up like half dozing off after like the second round because I was just tired. It was like 4:30 in the morning or something over here. And then yeah, then like every now and again the lads would like scream a bit because something happened. And then I stayed awake for like the last round, the fifth round. And then after that KO from Max May, I was wide awake then for another couple of fights. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was a brilliant card. Um, Not too fussed on it though, because I've got a mission of my own to do next week. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even over here, we're 5 hours behind you, and I was still falling asleep at like midnight, rolling
yeah.
through. This is your third fight with Octagon coming up. How have you liked your time in the promotion so far, and what stood out to you um, with this
Um,
promotion?
so yeah, it's not actually my third fight with Octagon. This will be my fifth fight with Octagon now. I had two on Octagon Challenge. I still consider those fights. They were basically full pro rules fights, 3 5-minute rounds. So you know what I mean? They were fights. I took damage in those fights. One of my opponents got knocked unconscious by me. So fight's a fight. But yeah, officially like on my record, my third fight. Yeah, I'm happy enough with them. But they need to start feeding me some of these Czech Republic guys, these German guys and stuff like that. Um, I also this is my third fight now at Octagon, as you say officially, and it's my third fight in the UK. So I want to go fight in Prague, in Germany, in Slovakia, wherever else they're doing cards. So I'm getting a bit sick of the weather over here. I want a bit of time away from fighting and water loading and all when it's raining and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I understand. I mean, weather over here is great. Can't complain about that. But what does your opponent Mullen do best that you have kind of tried to prepare for?
he doesn't do anything that great, to be honest. He does everything okay. He's like pretty basic, to be honest. He's not like an amazing sick wrestler. He's not a sick striker. He's not like a sick jiu-jitsu guy. He's just like okay at everything. And I feel like I'll outshine him in all aspects of the game. Um, everyone just sees me as a striker, but I think I'm going to come out and show different aspects of my game for this fight.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, is there anything that you do particularly well that you think he's going to have trouble with?
Yeah, everything I do, he's going to have trouble with. Whether it's the athleticism, the range, the speed, the sharpness, the head movement, the footwork, the cage craft, the jujitsu, the wrestling. He's going to have problems with everything I do, everything I throw at him. Um, I'm going to speak to him in the cage. He's not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, mental game is a big thing. So what started the kind of bad blood between the two of you? I know I've seen some videos. You guys are kind of going at it and at each other's throats, at least verbally, before the fight. How did that all begin?
There's not really any bad blood per se between me and Callum. Um, the only bad blood I have against him is that he's in my way. He's an obstacle that needs to get run through. Um, Obviously we had a bit of a back and forth on the face to face, across the table, but it's not really bad blood. I think it's more so just like I'm in his way, he's in my way, and one of us has to lose, right? So that's the only bad blood that's there. Other than that, it's nothing personal on him. Um, I have a job to do, and my job is to put him off his game, and for me to implement my game, and I think I'll do that come Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Your last time out, you defeated Jan Strarocki by unanimous decision. What did it feel like, getting your hand raised um, on a big card with a title fight and everything going on?
So yeah, was there a title fight on that? There wasn't any
I
title fight, was
misspoke.
it?
It was a number one contender fight
Title
between
contender,
Regard and
yeah.
Cartwright. I misspoke.
Yeah, so obviously it was sick being on the same car as Jonas McGard. He's a teammate of mine, he trains in Manchester Top Gun
Mhm.
quite a
Yeah,
bit as well. Um yeah, it was good to experience Newcastle as well. It was like my second time ever being in Newcastle. But I think just the time of the year that it was like the end of January, and obviously it being in Newcastle, which is a bit like out of the way of everything in the UK. It's like the very edge of the country. Um, I think the atmosphere wasn't what it was in Manchester, and I feel like it's not what it's gonna be in Birmingham. So the atmospheres are gonna be a lot better. Um, Obviously getting a win against the guy with 30 fights, 10 times the amount of fights I had. Um, he's like a staple guy in Octagon. Um, Getting a win against him was big. Would have liked to have gotten the finish, but I was happy to get the cage time. I was happy to outclass him in all aspects of the fight, where he doesn't really have any excuse to say like I caught him with a lucky shot or I caught him with a lucky submission or whatever it happens to be, or he zigged when he should have zagged. Like he had 15 minutes to do something and he couldn't do anything. And I just played with him and I didn't get out of second gear. I was dancing in the cage. I was talking to him in the cage. I was walking forward with my hands down. I was doing whatever I wanted to him, to be honest.
yeah. I do remember tuning in, watching that during class. It was during the afternoon for me. Um, do you feel like things are starting to come together? You've picked up some momentum. You've kind of found your game now.
I don't think I ever lost momentum. That George fight in November, obviously, in my opinion, it was the first fight I've ever actually lost. Obviously, I have other losses on my record at amateur and even at pro, but it was the first fight I actually got beat. Some of my losses were very controversial, close decisions, could have gone either way. So I didn't feel like I lost the fight. Where with George, I definitely felt like it was the first time I felt like I lost a fight. Um, but it didn't deter me. I know the caliber of fighter George is. I know the caliber of a prospect George is, and when he goes on to do what he goes to do, and I go on to do what I'm going to go do, maybe we'll meet again in the future. But people will see what a good fight that was for the scene, for regional MMA in the UK and Ireland. And yeah, we'll see if he stays in Octagon. I don't think he will. I think he's gonna try and leave and go to the UFC. Yeah, so I can imagine that he's gonna want to go UFC. I think that's his dream or whatever. Where, like I said, I'm not really bothered going to the UFC. I'm quite happy to stay in Octagon and cement my legacy here, break all the records here, be the longest reigning title holder. You know what I mean? Break all the numbers records, attendance records, pay-per-view records, all that over here. Like there's other ways to make it in MMA. And my goal was never necessarily UFC. It was just be a world champion and be a dominant world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Octagon has really established themselves as a not just a regional promotion, but one of the leaders in European MMA. So I think you're definitely right on there with wanting to stay there and make a mark in that promotion. But how is your uh, how did you take away any lessons from that fight?
From the George fight or from Siraki?
Yeah, from the George fight.
Yeah, I think obviously I fought George maybe a bit too early in my career, because he was right in a lot of ways. Like my wrestling wasn't up to scratch. I only started wrestling 2 years ago, maybe, you know. Um, and he's been wrestling for a long time. So since then, I've worked on a lot of the holes. I've plugged a lot of the holes up. You could see the difference in the Siraki fight with my anti-grappling, my anti-wrestling, my getting up off my back. And again, you'll see another level up now in this next fight because I believe Callum is going to come to wrestle. He's going to come to try and hold me on the cage. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the striking. Like most of these guys are not going to want to have anything to do with the striking. We haven't got many guys in UK MMA that are like a Justin Gaethje or like a Mike Chandler that want to be exciting, that have the wrestling pedigree, but would rather just use that wrestling to keep it on the feet and let's have a fight like real men. So yeah. Those are the things I took from that. I've plugged up a lot of those holes, and we'll see again on Saturday. Another level up in my skill set.
100%. Has your mental game gotten stronger as you've picked up fights in Octagon and in other places?
I'd say 100%. I've been using the mental warfare since the amateur game, and I've harnessed it and developed it as much as I have my skills in the cage. And yeah, I would say that it's gotten wittier. Sometimes you need to push the envelope to see what's what's what can be said, what can't be said. And I've definitely pushed past the envelope sometimes. Um, but listen, it's almost like stand-up comedy. You'll never know where the line is until someone steps over the line, and then you can draw the line there. Do you know what I mean? And I've got lines drawn now, but I think in terms of my sharpness, the sharpness of my tongue, I have been sharpening it. I've been, just evolving my game as far as mental warfare and in my own mental fortitude as well. So
Yeah, I was just about to say, how has your um, mental fortitude progressed? But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Uh, what's the biggest thing that you've learned in this camp so far?
biggest thing I've learned in the camp, don't blow up to 87 kilo when you fight when you fight a lightweight. Nah, I would say Leon Edwards came down to my gym a few weeks ago. He showed some really nice details on just anti-grappling, cage wrestling, offensive and defensive. So I'll be sure to try and pull out a few of those tricks out of the bag against Callum, and I'll give Leon Edwards a little shout out as well. He's probably going to be there. It's in his hometown. It's in Birmingham, so yeah, I'll be sure to give him a shout out on the microphone as well afterwards for showing me some of those little details. Any guy that spent over an hour in the cage with Kamaru Usman is gonna have wealth of experience in those positions. So those are probably the biggest things I picked up. Just and then the usual as well, just the usual. Just I work harder than anyone else I know in the game. So yeah, I'm always improving. I'm always gaining new skills. I'm always gaining little incremental things that over the course of an 8-week camp become massive jumps.
Yeah. Did you get starstruck at all training with a champ and someone who's done so much for the sport?
Um, no, really, not really. I think like MMA is one of these sports and combat sports in general, are one of these sports where, like, you could be an upcoming football player, like academy football player. You'd never get to play or like get a one-to-one talk with Ronaldo or with Messi. Do you know what I mean? And this is one of the few sports where you can rub shoulders with guys at the top of the game because they're a bit more down to earth, I think. Yeah. I wasn't really starstruck as much as I was just impressed by the fluidity he moves with. Like some of the stuff he showed us, it was just so fluid where when I'd go to do it, or most of the guys in the gym would go to do it, it'd be kind of like robotic and stiff. But obviously that just comes with time and experience and doing it more and more and more and more and more and getting the reps in, you know. So I've been getting the reps in, so I've become more fluid. And as I said, I'll show that Saturday night.
Yeah. You obviously train out of Manchester top team. How do your training partners like the Callum and Kyle Parker, Jim Rock, and Lerone Murphy, how do they push you to become a better fighter?
Shem is just a really good friend of mine. He actually doesn't train in my gym. He trains out in Next Gen with Paddy Pimblett and stuff like that. Molly McCann. But yeah, the likes of Lerone, Callum, obviously you got like other guys in there like that are a bit less known, but they're up and coming. You got your Callum Connor, you've got Jordan Barton, who just defended his featherweight title on FNC. Um, yeah, you've got so many good guys coming out of there, and just the levels are growing, and yeah, it just gives me so much confidence to train with these guys because if I'm able to have the kind of rounds I'm having with guys that are at their level, then someone like Callum will not have anything for me because I truly am a game day guy. In the gym. So there's a lot of guys that are really good in the gym and they can't put it together on the day. I feel like I'm the opposite. I'm not terrible in the gym, but I feel like I'm not even close to my full self in the gym because I can't really unload all my full array of weapons on someone, especially my training partners. Can't like elbow them in the face and stuff like that with no elbow pads on. I can't knee them in the head. So yeah, I feel like I come alive in the cage. And again, I'll show that come Saturday night. I think Callum Mullen's the opposite of me. He's a really good fighter in the gym and not so great when the lights are on and his family's in the crowd and his friends are in the crowd and people are cheering and booing. I think it gets to him a little bit. The moment gets to him. So
Yeah. Not only do you have a bunch of great training partners, like we mentioned, but also you've got a lot of great coaches at Manchester Top Team. Everybody I've spoken to from that gym has nothing but the best to say um, about your coaches. So, how have your coaches helped you evolve into a more complete fighter and someone who excels in all facets of the game?
so yeah, like our head coach Carl Prince, uh yeah, he's just an obsessive guy. Like he's obsessed with the game. Like myself, I see a lot of myself in him, and I'm sure he would say the same. Um, he breaks things down to like the minutia of the game and his eye for the game and just like little things like you'll ask him like, oh, who fought for on the first prelim fight of ACA 12 in Vladivostok in Russia in 2014, and he'll name two like random Russian guys. You'll go look it up and he's right, and you're like, how do you know that? Do you know what I mean? How have you retained that information? But like I said, he's just obsessed with the game. Um, like ironically, we were only on Friday, we were working on. He was showing us some technical stuff on the same sort of shot that Max Holloway ended up landing on Justin Gaethje. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, we were just doing that on Friday. So it's crazy, he honestly is a genius. You can see it by the level of guys we're producing. And like I say, it's still only early days for the gym. Like there's a lot of guys coming up now in the PFL and Bellator and obviously the UFC. There's going to be a few more in the UFC. We've got world champions coming out on Aries and all weight divisions. So yeah, it's gonna be spoken about in the same sort of breath as an American top team or a Jackson Wink or you know AKA in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, you guys are all young, very talented. Um, you had a fight at the Budo Fighting Championships against Liam Del Sol. and it ended up being ruled ineligible
Hmm.
for your record by Tapology. Was that frustrating to you to know that you worked so hard and put in
Um,
the work and trained in the camp, and then all of a sudden they won't count it on your record?
do you know what's more annoying by that is that like he wasn't even really there's no fight poster for that. Like he wasn't my original opponent. It was taken on 5 days notice, you know. I went out there, did what I did, got a sick
But then a split.
banana split finish. Eddie Bravo shared it, you know, one of my jiu-jitsu heroes from when I was a jiu-jitsu guy. Um, and then yeah, Tapology ruled it ineligible, but we have to remember as well, Tapology is not a governing body. Um, they're an independent website that runs MMA stuff basically. It's run by a load of just some guys, you know. I would say Fight Matrix is the more established MMA statistics site, right? And they have me down as 2-2. So I'm 2-2 as far as I'm concerned. Which isn't great. It's not where I want to be, you know, it's not where I thought I'd be. But again, like I said, I'd even consider myself 3-1 because that my first pro fight in Abu Dhabi, it was a split decision loss, absolute robbery. Anyone can go watch it. It's on Fight Pass. UAE Warriors Africa 2 or 3, I think it was. Um, yeah, 2. Yeah, got robbed. Do you know what I mean? Straight up got robbed. Everyone in the building knew I got robbed. Uh, everyone back home knew I got robbed. You know, so anyone who with 2 eyes knew I got robbed. So it
Yeah.
is what it is. But yeah, here we are. Like I say, I'm about to go 3-2 now, and then start kickstarting the momentum now to go on a big win streak and show the levels. You know, as I say, I'm learning on the job. I'm only doing MMA 2.5 years.
Yeah. I was about to say, you've only been a pro for 2.5 years. How's that experience for you been now that it's your livelihood?
I only made my amateur debut 2.5 years ago. I've only been a pro since last January. I made my pro debut last January, so just over a year I've been a pro. Um, you know, so yeah, it's not all glitz and glamour. Like people think that you're a pro fighter, you're a pro athlete, all this and that. I think we must be like the only sport where you can be a pro athlete and not be able to make a living purely off, like a good living, purely off what you're doing, you know? Um, Especially at the start of your career, you know. I'm still having to do like PTs and stuff like that and coaching little one-to-ones to make a bit of extra money to keep me going. Sponsors are a big help, so shout out all my sponsors. But yeah, it's not all glitz and glam like it seems to be for people that aren't in it, and every fighter knows that. But you know, Alhamdulillah, I'm gonna keep moving forward, and eventually we'll make those big bucks. I think with my personality, my fighting style, and my skill set, I can't I can't fail at this game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got it all in front of you. One last question. What are your goals for this year going forward? It's early in the year. Just now, the second quarter, you've got a lot of time for some more fights. So, what's your plan for 2024?
So after I beat Callum Mullen, I want at least 3 more fights, depending on how the fights go, obviously, and how hurt I am after the fights. You know, a lot of the time you're hurting a guy with your own body, right? So a lot of the time your feet and shins will be swollen up a little bit. But as long as I can stay healthy, I'm gonna try and get as many fights as I can. Like I said, I want to break all the records. I want to show Octagon I'm the most active guy on this roster. Um, you know, I'm in Octagon less than a year. Like I say, I've already had 5 fights under the Octagon banner in the Octagon cage. And this is my fifth one. So people can talk about whatever they want, but they can't say I'm not active. They can't say I'm not on job. Um, as far as opponents, I'm not looking past this Callum Mullen fella yet. There is a few guys I have in mind. Um, they know who they are, and there's a couple of cards that I have in mind as well. But I'm gonna focus on Saturday. You know, We're only 6 days away now. Once I beat him this day next week, we can have a conversation about what the next steps are and what the plan is. But things rarely go to plan, you know. But we have a plan.
I mean, like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I'm sure you're
Exactly.
going to do plenty of that to Callum Mullen this weekend.
100%.
All right, Dennis, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, this is Dennis the Menace Frimpong. He fights at Octagon next weekend against Callum Mullen in Birmingham, England. Thank you so much, Dennis. I really appreciate it.